All right, everybody, we are live, and we're live for another live recording of the Managing Partners podcast. We're coming to you live on LinkedIn and YouTube today, and this will be available soon on our podcast, on multiple platforms, and on our website at arraylaw.com. Today, special guest from out of D.C., Dan Meyer. Welcome to the show. Can't wait to hear your story.
Kevin, nice to be with you.
Yeah, so you're located in D.C., not too far away. I'm actually on the Eastern Shore this week. And you're right there in the heart of D.C., it sounds like.
Yes, Kevin, we're at 20th and L in the Golden Triangle District of Washington, just off Connecticut Avenue and K Street.
Excellent. So let's jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about your background, Dan, how you got started in your profession, and a little bit about the firm and the specialties, the practice areas that you focus on.
Well, I'm sort of a unicorn in this field. I came out of law school, went into communications law, hopped over to whistleblower protection, and then went in-house at the Pentagon and in the intelligence community for a number of years. And when I parted ways with Dan Coates a few years ago, Matt Tully and Rinckey asked me to come in and help represent our intelligence community cadre and contractors and our service members on security clearance law. So I came to the private practice of law sort of late in my career. The firm itself has been in business for 18 years. We have 65 plus attorneys in 11 offices around the globe. We're in London, England. We're in New York. We're in Washington, D.C. We're down in Texas. We have a great, strong presence in New York State. The military law practice group is headquartered out of Buffalo, New York. Tony Kuhn, the managing partner. And I work in his practice group and represent employees on both federal employment law matters in the non-intelligence field. And then for our intelligence community and service members, we do a full array of military and national security services on security clearances and courts martials and those sorts of activities.
Very impressive. So 11 offices and just around the world. So, and your background's very interesting. It sounds very intriguing. I could feel like I could sit down and probably just hear you tell me a bunch of stories every day. So
most of them are classified, Kevin. I probably couldn't tell them to you.
You might not be able to tell me.
Yeah, the key on the global side of things, it's very important, and it's not intuitive when you think about national security law, but we're doing the work of companies and corporations and preserving their assets, because a security clearance held by an employee, a defense contractor, is an asset. So often we'll get calls from the general counsel in-house at a corporation to do corporate work as well. So the international footprint helps us with the needs of our corporate clients, and our corporate clients often have complementary goals of our individual clients as well.
Excellent. So what are some of kind of the challenges a client is faced with when they're coming to you, whether the existing client or if it's someone that has not used your firm or a firm like yours at all? They're coming to you with an issue. What's some of the challenges that they typically face?
So the fear of the unknown is the big part of it. If you're an individual employee in a federal agency and you hold a clearance, your security training has been inadequate for most of your career. You'll go through some PowerPoint slides, you'll click through them, you really don't pay attention. I took the same training. I did pay attention, but most of my coworkers did not. So when you get a notice that you're going to lose your clearance, you really have no idea the process. And the security officers really can't tell employees that much. So it's the fear of the unknown. And the other thing is that people will try to be trusting, and they will put their trust in people who don't have their best interests in mind. So the nice thing about coming to a law firm is that you've got somebody on your side as a part of the process, and then we can help them navigate through the various wickets they have to achieve to keep their clearance or keep their job if they're focusing on a proposed suspension. So it's the fear of the unknown, and that's what we help them come in and tackle.
Okay, on the flip side, what are some of common mistakes maybe that they have made that either make your job harder or impossible? With some common mistakes they've made along the way.
Well, when you have to do a repair job for a client, meaning the client got started, didn't talk to counsel soon enough, and then they ended up in a big mess that takes far more resources to sort out. So the mistake of not addressing the issue up front is really critical. I'll give you a scenario about that. I've had clients come to me with security clearances, and they have engaged in drug use, which is a big no-no, right? When you go for a security clearance, you sign a form that you will not break the law, you will not partake in illicit substances. So if you're in that situation, why wait until you pop positive on a urine test? Why not just go to your security office and just disclose that you made a mistake and you took drugs by accident? You were at a wedding and somebody put something in a cake, or you had a brownie and you didn't know that it had THC in it. There's all sorts of scenarios that come about. But when you panic and you do nothing, because most people will not fight, they will flight, they will avoid the issue. You end up sitting on it, and then you sit on it for 6 months. Somebody mentions drug use, you mention to somebody, security finds out. Then you end up with a proceeding that's about your integrity rather than about the stupidity you engaged in taking drugs when you said you wouldn't. So not addressing the problem soon enough is a big issue. The second one I referred to earlier is trusting people who don't have your best interest in mind is a big, big problem that both contractors and cadre and service members run into. You know, bureaucracies are self-interested. They will do what they need to do for themselves. And they're not particularly interested in you as an individual. You actually have far fewer rights than most people think they have. What you have is process, and you need people to come in and help you organize that process from the outside.
Oh, very interesting. So basically, back to the one mistake about just not coming forward, just being transparent and get ahead of it before, again, it becomes an integrity issue, which I would assume is a big issue with holding a security clearance.
Yeah, Guideline E is the personal conduct guideline that's administered by the Director of National Intelligence. If you get hit with a single Guideline E trigger in your record, they basically are saying that you're a liar. And you've got to get that stink off you, or your future presence on a federal contract or your future presence in a federal agency is highly questionable.
That makes sense. Okay, well, next question. Actually, anyone tuning in, you got any questions for Dan, please ask. I'm sure most people could have a lot of questions for Dan on this topic. I know I can come up with a ton. Dan, so how do you go about getting new clients, getting in front of clients that, to bring in new business, I guess is the best way to put it.
So when I started out in the practice of law, very briefly before I went into the federal sector, it was 1997. And young associates were encouraged to look for business, but the raw truth in most agencies is that 4 or 5 people had the access to the associations, that had access to the paying clients, and that's how you got your business. You waited your turn until you had been tapped to be a partner, and then the rain came forth from people who handed it down to you. It was a guild. It was a very aristocratic system. The internet blew that whole scenario up. Now what you have to do as a Washington attorney, and this is probably true in other markets as well, is you have to be where your potential clients are right now. And increasingly, that might be at a trade association, or it might be in some physical forum. But more often than not in Washington, which can be a town of strangers, physical strangers, it's on the internet. And it's circulating through the internet, both in video and in emails and in chats and in tweets. So you have to be where the client's going to be. We use advertising via the internet. We use the Google system. We have media campaigns. Our marketing department helps us organize. So we go out and we speak on topics that are of interest to our clients, not just general topics, but that are interesting to our clients. And then there's the old-fashioned tools in the new cyber sense. Networking is very important. You have to be known in the community. Knowing attorneys who don't do my area of law but have clients who need our services is very important, because there's nothing. An attorney wants to solve the client's problem, and if an attorney can't solve it, having a friend who can is a great thing as well. So those are the traditional sort of tools in the new sense. And then there are the important tools of the internet presence. And that's where you slowly build a reputation for being able to do good work. And the bottom line is as true now as it was 200 years ago, is that if you do good work as an attorney, if you solve problems for people and word gets out, people will beat a path to your door.
No, 100%. So, and yeah, kind of the way the ends, like the referrals, from other attorneys having those relationships was a huge part. But no, it sounds like you guys are really, the firm is invested in exploring multiple ways to get in front of people, marketing, advertising, Google, which is great. I talked to a lot of other firms that practice areas in similar areas as you guys, and a lot of the business law or intellectual property or patent, they tend to not do those things. They're usually referral only built businesses, which is understandable. But I think it's great to see that what you guys are doing, and that you're gonna go where the clients go in, and not just stick to old traditional ways only. I think those are still great ways, and you have to do good work. You have to have integrity. You have to do good work, provide a good service, and that's definitely going to come back to you, and you'll get referrals and from other business owners, from other lawyers, things like that. Yeah, great. That's excellent. So I would assume you guys probably spent some efforts on like SEO. I've seen your website, which looks great. Your social media presence looks good and strong. So it appears that you guys are putting the efforts into all those areas.
Oh, definitely. The way I think of it, and actually it was no different in the public sector for me. When I was at the Department of Defense Office of the Inspector General, and when I worked for Chuck McCullough, who was the Intelligence Community Inspector General, part of my job was to go out and get people to complain about their bosses. I ran whistleblowing programs. I mean, I would put on a set of headphones every day. I would sit there and turn on MSNBC and click off the volume on the TV, and I would just work with employees to help them understand the protections. And the end goal was to get them to basically drop the dime on their boss doing time and attendance fraud, or taking the government vehicle to Hooters for lunch. I mean, there's this crazy sort of stuff. You take that basic ethos that you want a continuous media presence, and the media could be for a private company out on the internet. Inside the government, the media presence is inside the agency, so outreach to agencies was important. You want your name and your brand, and it's appropriate to use brand in that context, out there so that when people have that gnawing doubt that something's going wrong, whether it's in their own employment context, or remember that every federal employee, every cadre, every contractor is a potential source about corruption in the government, and they need to be protected too. When they have that gnawing doubt that something's really about to go wrong, you want them to get protection, come to a lawyer and get advice. But they're not going to come to you unless you have that consistent presence where they are out there in the broader community. And if you stick with that principle, and I was even trained to do this at the Pentagon, they sent me through specialized training so that I could actually help use the media to get sources for where people were doing nefarious things inside the Defense Department. And the same applies in private law practice. Wow. You want to be able to develop that presence so people know, oh, there's the person to go see. I want to go see. I want to talk to Dan, even if it's only for a consult, so I got a sense of what I'm going through, whether that's a good thing, a bad thing, whether I need to panic, whether I don't need to panic. You don't want the poor person to end up with tire treads on their forehead, which is the way we used to speak about it in the intelligence community. Is out of nowhere, they didn't think anything was wrong. Their boss gets indicted and walked out, and all of a sudden, all the actions are pointing to things they did for their boss. You need a lawyer before that point.
Interesting. Okay. I guess, what is really as far as your area of practice, but the firm itself, what are some of the future plans for growth? Any kind of big things you see affecting, I guess, the market, or that could directly affect it may be laws, it could be different policies. Do you see anything coming down the pike, I guess, that could negatively or positively affect the caseload you guys have?
So in my field, with federal employment law and national security law, and a national security law looking to help people with security clearances and corporations who rely on security clearances to get their work done. So in that area, and I do some other types of law, but in that area, we're in a fundamentally different environment right now. We've just come through a year in which there's been multiple reassessments of what are the national security needs of the country. We're also in a time period where the professionals in our field, some leading lawyers in the country, are now facing potential criminal indictments or investigations for their behavior, probably behavior they thought was perfectly acceptable over the last few years. So the client need is going to change. What's not going to change is the path to our door. So we need to do all those media events, do our networking so people know where to go to. When they come to us, this is where it's going to get really exciting, is things are changing, okay? There are threats to the country that we did not understand existed 5 years ago. So employees are going to need to be careful. You go on a website for some domestic organization, you thought it was a Second Amendment club, and it turns out to have other things it was doing, maybe even on January 6th. You may end up needing legal services in a way you never would have thought of when the associations you wanted to be careful about were in Russia or Cuba or the Ukraine. It's easy to avoid those kinds of situations, but your next door neighbor now could be an enemy of the state. Your next door neighbor could be somebody who's a potential threat to the republic, and all of a sudden you have to figure out how to navigate your employment with one of the 17 intelligence community elements or with the Defense Department, when the Defense Department is now looking at our fellow Americans as a potential threat.
Yeah, I mean, a lot has changed, and I think with COVID, and then the January 6th, all the things that the last year has been a ton of change. I'm sure that's affecting you guys. What do you see from is related to, like, is there anything that would be related to you at all with cryptocurrency or those kinds of things in the market?
So the broader international context, increasingly we don't know. If you're a federal employee or if you're an analyst at the CIA and you go home and you're off on your own time and you're off buzzing around on the internet, you don't know that what you're seeing is what you're seeing. So you could be on a website, I think it's a local website in Catonsville, Maryland, and in fact, you're on a website that's being monitored by the Chinese intelligence service. And so they're going to be out there looking at things. People are going to be looking at your keystrokes. People will be looking at where you're going and what you're visiting. Wow. And they're going to try to profile you. So you need to have really good information about what's helpful and what's not helpful for your career. Those are the sorts of things that are getting far more complicated. Dating sites, Kevin. I would never have thought of this 10 years ago, but there we have gentlemen in the Defense Department who might go on a dating site and see some really exciting prospect in Belarus or Moldavia. It happens, and you go on a few vacations, and you find out from security 18 months later that the FSB was running the website to try to catch you, compromise you on film, and then try to leverage you to get secrets out of the United States. So those are the things that need to become more and more problematic for employees, because we in the United States are not very secure in our world's presence right now. It's changed. This is not 1983. The bomb was actually a good thing. People forget this, is that when we had mutual assured destruction, everybody in our society knew their place, right? We all were going to go up if the big one went up. Now there's so much complexity. There's so much interrelationship between domestic and international organizations that Americans increasingly don't really understand what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do. And we have to keep our clients, federal employees and federal contractors, out of the weeds, out of the danger zones. And that's where we have to study up, and we have to be flexible and learn new things, because our law is going to change day by day, month by month, very quickly.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot to keep up with. And it's like me trying to keep up with Google on what they're doing. It's
exactly.
It's a constant battle. Well, it seems like you got your workout out for you, that's for sure. But world's returning a little bit to normal. How's it there in DC? Are things opening up? On a lighter note,
we're back here in the office for a year. Matt and Greg and Mike up in Albany gave the word to deploy our attorneys to home. We got everybody set up. Everybody had technology. It took about a month and a half, but we ran the firm seamlessly for a year with only our 2 staff down here in our DC office. They did a wonderful job of making sure that all the paper copy got scanned and got out to us. They were absolutely essential. But, I just got fed up of being at home. And so when the mayor lifted the cap, I said, I'm going back to downtown. But the challenge, Kevin, is that you walk in downtown now and there's very little that's opened. It's a ghost town. So I'm here, but I'm here for marketing purposes, I guess. My hearings are all still kind of virtual or over in Northern Virginia. But we need to get DC moving again. Okay. COVID's over. We need to be proactive. We need to have proper abatements. But the way you kick back at a virus is the same way you kick back at a terrorist. You don't cave to their demands. You run your life as you would run it. And that means we all got to get back to downtown DC and open up the restaurants for Mr. Meyer.
There you go. Dan's hungry, people. He needs some good food. Well, Dan, thanks so much for coming on and sharing a lot of great information about your firm and what you guys do. It's very intriguing. What is the best way that people can reach out to you? Now, I have your website here at the bottom. I'll put that in the comments. People can click on it. But what's the best way to reach out to you directly?
So go to the Tully Rinckey website, the big website. Just go under fraternity, attorney bios and pick up my name, Dan Meyer, Meyer, and my point of contact's right there. Send me an email. I will look at emails. I take emails from people all day. I don't hide behind my legal support specialist, and she's very thankful for that. But yeah, just go to the website, find me, and send me a note. Be glad to hear from people.
All right. Well, again, thanks for sharing your story. Anything else you'd like to share before we sign off?
No, you have a good time out there on the Eastern Shore. It's a beautiful place.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we're here for a couple more days. My anniversary. So me and my wife I'm about to get off here soon. I'm going to get in trouble. So we're going to celebrate for a little.
How many years?
11 years.
Good for you. You're out of the terrible 7s. You'll make it for life, my friend.
Yeah, we got past 10. We're good. So anyone tuning in, again, if you need marketing services in law, that's what we specialize in. Look us up at arraylaw.com. And please connect with Dan. Check him out at the website below. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Do good work, everybody.
Yeah, and open DC back up.